Hello, welcome to Tuesday's lesson. Now we're going to do a little bit of algebra for our starters today, and then you can see we're going on to look at household expenditure. So we'll talk about that in a minute, but back to our algebra first of all. So remember, when we've been solving equations, what we need to do is make sure we perform the same operations on both sides of the equation, because remember, an equation is like a balancing scale. And we've got to keep it balancing. The bit in the middle of the seesaw, if you like, is the equals sign. So the x minus 5 weighs the same as the 11. So if we want to get x on its own, remember we've got to do the opposite of what's stopping it being on its own. So we would add 5 to both sides. And that would give us x on this side and 16 on the other. And that's that simple little equation solved. Okay, remember, solving an equation just means finding out what the letter stands for. Okay, and then on our second starter question today, we're simplifying, so we need to collect like terms. If we have a look through here, we can see we've got A's and B's. So in A's, we can see, let me just get my highlighter here. See what happens when I do this. I'm not sure what colour it is. Let's make it yellow actually. There we go. Right, so we can see in A's, we've got 3A there, we've got plus 5A there, and another takeaway A there. So altogether in A's, we've got 3A, add 5A, take away 1A. Remember, if it's A on its own, it means 1A. So 3A add 5A would be 8A, take away 1A gives us 7A. Okay, then having a look at the B's, we can see that we've got a positive 2B here, take away 1B there, so altogether we've got 2B, take away a B, so that just leaves us with 1B, but we don't write the 1 in front of the B because we know if it says B that it means 1B. Okay, so just quick little starters for us today. So moving on then. This is the plan for this week. Okay, so yesterday we looked at wages and salaries and everything to do with earning money. Today we're looking at household expenditure, necessities versus luxuries. So they're words that we're going to have to explain in a minute. And then for the rest of the week, we're doing things like saving and bank accounts and all the words that's associated with that. Thursday, we're going to look at how we create a budget, how we work out what we've got enough money for. And then Friday, we're going to look at can we afford the holiday and the new car. So I'm hoping that's going to be a yes. Anyway, today's work is looking at household expenditure. Okay, so expenditure is all the money that goes out, all the money that needs to be paid out. Okay, and they can be broadly put into two categories: necessities and luxuries. Okay, necessities are the things that you don't have a choice about. They are the things that you need and that cost money. Okay, so we'll look at what they are in a minute. And then the luxuries, they're things that you would like, or things that you want, or things that you enjoy but you could live without. Okay, so we're going to have a look and see what sort of things can come under each heading. Now, of course, if we were in a classroom situation, you would be suggesting these, but I don't have your input at the moment, which is a shame. So I'm just going to have to go through what they all are, and chances are you might have thought of some other ones as well. So have a little think just now about what you think is going to go in each column, and I'll start putting things in as well. So a necessity, so things that you have to pay for when you're in a household. Things that have to be paid for are the actual house or the flat or wherever it is you live. So that would either be a mortgage or rent. Okay, depending on whether you own your home or whether you're renting it. That is a necessity and you don't have a choice about that. Okay, other necessities, you have to pay bills. Right, you don't have a choice about those. So the bills that you have to pay are usually electric, gas. If you've got gas, it might all be electric though. Some people's homes are heated with oil. We have to pay something called council tax, which is money that goes to the council every month. The more that your house is worth, the higher your council tax is. Okay, so we have to pay those kind of bills. We've also got things like phone bills. That might be your landline or it might be mobile phones. And I think these days people would consider that broadband, if you've got it, or Wi-Fi, if you've got it, it has to go in the necessities column, because if you don't pay for it, you won't have it anymore. Okay, so whereas it's not entirely necessary for us to survive, if we've signed a contract for it, we have to pay for it, so it does have to come in that column. Okay, so other things that we have to pay for are, we might have running costs for a car. Okay, it's for a lot of people who are working at home at the moment, their petrol bills are not too high. Perhaps they're saving money a little bit just now on not having to drive to work. But if you've got a car, you have to pay for the running costs, okay? That includes things like petrol. You have to pay road tax. You have to have your car MOT'd once a year. That shows it's safe. You have to have your car insured. And you have to pay for repairs as you're going along. Okay, if you've got any loans for anything, they have to be paid for. That has to come out of your necessities. Okay, we're going to look at luxuries now, and we might think of some more things that go in the necessities column. Actually, here's another thing to go in the necessities: insurance. Okay, so the kind of insurance that you might have, if you own your home, if you've got a mortgage, you have to have buildings insurance. Okay, most people, whether they own or rent, will have contents insurance. That means if something happens to what's in your home, then you will get a payout to cover that if something dreadful happens. Okay, some people have life insurance. Okay, or critical illness insurance, which would pay out if you got a serious illness or if you died. Okay, so there's all those different kinds of insurance as well. And like the broadband and Wi-Fi, if you have these things, they are a necessity because you do have to pay for them. Okay, so let's look at the luxuries. Okay, so So luxuries would perhaps be upgrading your phone and paying more than you need to for it. Okay, luxuries would be probably gadgets. Okay, whether that's tech gadgets like phones and tablets and games consoles or things like that, or gadgets for the kitchen or gadgets for the garage or whatever. Those things would have to count as luxuries, I think. Special food, okay, that has to be a luxury. A luxury that we can't do at the moment is eating out, and what we can do at the moment, sort of, is takeaways. Okay, so they're not necessary, they would have to come under luxuries. So the necessities are what you have to pay for, and luxuries are what you can have if you've got enough money left when you've paid for your necessities. Okay, so let's think, what other luxuries could we have? I'm just going to put buying unnecessary things or buying unnecessary items, right? For example, if you fancied the top that you've seen in the window at New Look, then if you only fancy that, then that's not necessary and it can wait if it needs to. Jewellery, for example, is not necessary. These are all things that you can spend money on if you want to, but only if you've got the money. Okay, so they're the kind of things that are luxuries. All right, buying a new car would be a luxury. Okay, unless your old car had completely given up. Okay, holidays are luxuries. Okay, so of course all of these things that we've got in the luxuries column, they vary in value, don't they? So it might be that you can afford some of them one month and you can't afford them the next month, or that you go a few months without some of them so that you can have one of the more expensive ones. So we're going to be talking about that more when we look at creating a budget. Okay, so that's all that stuff. So what we need to look at now is bills to start with. So remember I said you have to pay your bills. So for example, a bill usually consists of a standing charge and a charge per unit. Okay, now what I mean, Stacey, that's not what I tried to do. Oh dear, there we go, that's what I'm trying to do. Standing charges and charge per unit. Right, so a standing charge is an amount that you pay per month or per day or week, whatever way it's worked out. Okay, the charge per unit is the more you use, the more you pay. Okay. Okay, so for example, gas and electricity. They have a standing charge, which is, I'm going to put SC for that, and that's per day. Okay, and then whatever gas or electricity you use, you get charged a small amount for each unit of gas or electricity you use. Okay, it's the same with mobile phones, but the standing charge is your monthly charge. Okay, and it might be that certain types of text message get charged extra, or certain calls to certain kinds of numbers get charged extra, or that kind of, or if you go above your contract agreement in terms of data or phones or phone minutes or text or whatever. So bills, like I say, generally consist of a standing charge which you have to pay anyway, and then you do have some control over the rest of it, because the less you use, the less you pay. Okay, but it isn't the case that if you use no electricity, you don't have to pay anything. Okay, you still have to pay for the fact that electricity is available in your house. Okay, so different kinds of insurance. We've touched on this a little bit. Got car insurance, buildings insurance, contents insurance, life insurance, and we might have things like gadget insurance as well. Okay, so car insurance is usually an annual policy, so that means per year. And you can pay it all in one go at the start of the year, or you can spread the cost of that so that you're paying a smaller amount each month. But to be able to drive a car, you have to have insurance. Okay, it's not allowed for a car to be driven on the roads if the car is not insured. Okay, buildings does what it says. It covers your building. So if there was something that happened to the outside of your building, then your building's insurance would be what covers that. Okay, so insurance is where if something goes wrong, you get a payout because you've been paying every month for this. Okay, so the next one is contents insurance. So that covers everything that's in your house. That includes things like carpets and curtains and furniture, as well as possessions. Okay, like clothes or handbags or kitchen items, you know, things like your fridge and stuff like that. So your contents would be covered if you've got contents insurance. Not everybody has contents insurance, but what that means is if something bad happens in your house, you've lost it. Okay, so most people do have it. Life insurance is to cover, for example, if there was a married couple living in a house and one of them unfortunately died, the life insurance would hopefully give the other one enough money so that they could carry on living in that house and that they could carry on doing the job that they're doing and still be able to afford their life. Okay, so life insurance covers if somebody dies, but also it can include critical illness cover. So, for example, if one of you was diagnosed with a very serious illness such as cancer or heart disease, your insurance can pay out then, because it might mean that the person is unable to work and earn money. Okay, gadget insurance is almost always offered to you when you buy a gadget. So if you're buying a new phone or console or things like that, you are almost always offered an insurance, and it generally speaking is a monthly payment that you can choose or not. Okay, if you choose it, it means that if something goes wrong, if you drop your phone and smash the screen, you've got a small amount to pay, but not as much as just buying a new screen would cost. Okay, gadget insurance, if you happen to, if it went wrong, then it would be covered. Okay, these kinds of insurance often involve accidental damage cover. Okay. Now, the last thing we need to look at is reducing household expenditure. So sometimes, when you look at how much money you've got just before payday, you might realise that actually that's not enough and you need to reduce what you're spending. So ways of reducing household expenditure, what would they be? How could you reduce the amount that you need to pay out every month? Well, there's different ways of doing it. You can cut back on spending. Okay, but we know that we can't cut back on spending. The essential things that we looked at, the necessities, we can't not pay those. Okay, so we could cut back on spending on luxuries. Okay, or like we looked at here, all these things in the luxuries column, we could cut down what we're spending on those. Daisy. To help reduce our bills, there are certain bills that we can't reduce. For example, your council tax is fixed. However, gas and electricity, you could be aware of what you're using. Beware of usage and reduce. So, for example, in my house, the amount of times that I go into my children's bedrooms when they're not there and find out they've got the light on. The fact that we sometimes have the heating on when we're not in the house. Switching things off when we're not in the room, that would mean, the telly and stuff as well, that's often on when there's nobody watching it. So those kind of things you can reduce, even though you have to pay the bills, you can reduce how much the bills are. Okay, so that's really all we wanted to say about household expenditure. It's that some of what we spend, you don't have any choice about. You have to pay for these things. These are the things that you can have if you can afford them. And sometimes, if we're careful enough with these things and we shop around and we get our insurance as cheap as we can, etc., then that leaves us more money for luxuries. Okay, there are some circumstances when you can't afford any luxuries and it's all you can do to manage to pay for your necessities, which is when it really matters for things like reducing your household expenditure by cutting back on things that you can cut back on. Okay, so like we said, tomorrow we're going to be looking at savings and bank accounts, and then we're going to combine what we've looked at today with what we've got coming in, and we'll look at creating a budget. So I will see you tomorrow.